So today we're out on the western edge of the North York Moors, and this place is dominated by two major landmarks that are both rich in story and folklore, and that is the White Cliffs up on Sutton Bank and Gormire Lake. So as we walk around, I'm going to chat about a few of the stories that are sort of associated with those places, and just generally have a nice time. It is a glorious day, absolutely beautiful, sort of late spring now. Well, it feels like summer actually, but yeah, really nice day. We're in this lovely, beautiful woodland. There's lots of bird call. I've just seen some badger poo. So it's a real sort of soul lifting place to be at the moment. First part of the walk is dominated by the big cliffs behind you. It's a nice spot to see them from, really, because they, you know, you see them from the road so often and don't really appreciate how big they are, because you're often at quite a distance. But when you get up close to them here, and it feels like, especially today because the sun's out, it feels like we're in Spain somewhere or something like that. It is beautiful, and everywhere you look there's little signs of wildlife, like little badger tracks just going off into the woods, or deer tracks, whatever. But yes, it's an impressive landscape, this, full of these sort of jumbled boulders. And look at that. I mean, that is something special, isn't it? And just a lot of the trees here, it's this mixed woodland which you know, so used to seeing pine woods, but you get this beautiful mixed woodland here, which is just so good for wildlife, so rich, and you can hear it in the bird calls around you. There's so many different species going on. There's your chiffchaffs and wrens and blackbirds, and probably redstarts in here if it's a nice mixed woodland. So yeah, it's a real beautiful spot. So before we get on to the folklore, it's important to note that this place has been inhabited for a long time, like, you know, prehistoric records of Iron Age huts down by Lake Gormire and all the rest of it. And that's really intrinsic to these stories, like this continuation of inhabitants that pass stories along that slowly get changed over time. And yeah, we'll get to why they might have come about later, some of these stories. But yeah, it's just, I always think the longer a place has been inhabited, the richer the tapestry of stories that inhabit it, and often similar stories where they've changed over time depending on the people and their view on their environment around them. As you'll be able to tell by me being out of puff, I just walked uphill. We're back out onto the glider airfield. When you get a break in the trees, glorious views out there, which you can see right over to Yorkshire Dales today. A little bit of haze from the warmth, but it's a long old view. This path up here gives you some wonderful views, man. It's nice because you can see back where you've come. So you can see Hood Hill, which is now covered in trees, interestingly. I've got an old walking book that was my dad's from the 80s, a classic, I think it's either Classic Walks or Big Walks, one of those series. And there's a photo from the top of Sutton Bank, and the whole of Hood Hill is absolutely bare. So, you know, that was 40 years ago. Maybe the photograph might have been a bit older, but in 50 years you can completely repopulate a hill with trees. I mean, they are the standard pines. There's a few sort of different variations of trees in there by the looks of it, but it just shows you what you can do if you put the time and effort in, which is what we need to be doing, really. So the current folklore surrounding Gormire Lake in particular is that even today locals believe that on a stormy night when the weather's coming in, you can see a sort of phantom horse that runs up to the cliff edge, jumps off, but then just vanishes into thin air. And interestingly enough, there's been lots of reports and sightings, even to this day, of on a stormy night when people are driving the road in Hambleton, over the Hambleton tops, that they see a spectral horse or a horse that vanishes. And there's been a few accounts of this that have cropped up recently, and it's just an interesting little quirk to these stories. And obviously their genesis is a long time ago, but yet today there's still these anomalies reported. And I mean, does it give weight to the fact there could be something here? Could always have been something here, or could it just be the memory of this story lingering on?
One interesting account of this phenomenon appears in the book Haunted Yorkshire by Nick Tyler. In this account, a young woman who has recently relocated to the area describes driving across the moors at night when she comes across a horse and rider. She follows them for a while and describes the figure as pitch black with no detail. This figure disappears and reappears further down the road before vanishing altogether. What is notable about this account is that the witness claims to have no previous knowledge of the existing story. This is just one of many accounts of this horseman of the Hambleton Hills.
Handy little stop off to get some water. They've got a refill tap there, which is nice. And then we're going to head to apparently the finest view in England.
This finest view was given its title by the famed author James Herriot, who wrote All Creatures Great and Small. It is indeed a fine view and gives a far-reaching glimpse of the Dales, but is it the best in England? Well, let me know in the comments below and we'll see if you all agree.
And we've got some wild onion rings. You don't see them in the wild very often, so that's a good spot. So around the visitor centre there's the usual flush of stuff, trails, little platforms to view England's finest view from, and stuff like that, which I always really appreciate, but it does take me out of the wild a little bit. But I can completely understand it, and it's always good to get people into nature, isn't it? So if they need a little bit of help, that is fine, and it also gives access to people who may otherwise not be able to access it on special off-road buggies and stuff like that. So, you know, that's positive really. Everyone should be able to access a bit of the countryside at least. In a short while we're going to be taking a small path off down into Garbutt's Wood and down to Gormire Lake itself.
I would highly recommend a spring or early summer walk around here, as the woods that surround you are alive with colour and bursting with life, adding extra interest as you walk through them.
Path down Garbutt's Wood, and we're heading down towards the lake as ever. It's this lovely little path here, and then whoop, quite the drop down there. So again, steady feet and excitable dogs keep them on a lead, because that's quite a roll down there. But yes, this crag that we're coming up to now, the last one we walked under was Ralston Crag, I think that's how you say it. But this one is known as, you know, the White Cliffs at Sutton Bank, and this is the one that's also known as White Mare Crag. So the name has become synonymous with the folklore of the area. So that just shows you the importance that the local people put to this. And I said about the other story about the mare that steals sin, but that probably stems from an earlier story which involves an abbot and a local knight who get into a race, and the abbot challenges the knight to this race across the moors. The weather sets in and they both race towards the edge, and as they plunge off of the cliff, the abbot transforms into the devil. And it has been the devil all along that he's been racing who's tricked him to make him fall into Gormire Lake. As the abbot strikes the lake, the heat that he creates makes the lake boil, and that's why it's such a dark colour today. These horses would have to be pretty special because it's probably about 400 or 500 metres from the cliff top down to the lake if you travel out. So they're either very good jumpers, or the lake was a lot bigger, or people have just confabulated the story slightly. So it's also believed that the lake is bottomless, and this story of the abbot sort of solidifies that idea, and that it's actually a gateway to hell. So, you know, just be careful if you're going for a swim in there, right? So it's interesting that is another nod towards the White Horse, White Mare Crag, the White Horse that's in today. All these little pointers of the importance of the White Horse, and of course, let's not forget the mural or the chalk hill figure of the White Horse that's over by the Glider Centre. So this whole place is permeated by this legend of the White Horse.
The White Horse hill figure was cut into the hill in 1857 and was the brainchild of the Victorian businessman Thomas Taylor. He'd been inspired by the hill figures in the south of England and enlisted the help of a local school to cut the figure into the hill. It's the most northerly hill figure in England and stands at 318 feet long.
Again, loads more bluebells, absolutely carpeted with them in this wood. They're beautiful. I've really chosen the right time of year to come through here at the minute. Although, it has to be said, talking about this folklore stuff, you know, it'd be nice to have a bit of weather, really, to get into the spirit of it. But I suppose I'm just going to have to imagine what it's like. Imagine that stormy night and that horse coming crashing over the cliff edge. And that's part of the fun of it, I suppose. So yeah, so far it's the walking's been really nice, very like tranquil, I think I'd say. Just spending all this time in these woods with all the sort of spending loads of time in these woods with all the stimulus going on from the birds and the little insects and the flowers. It's sort of getting every sense going, and it makes you feel better. It makes you feel a lot better. There's not too many, you know, it's a little bit undulating as with any walk on the moors. It's bound to be a little bit of up and down hill, but nothing overly strenuous. Yeah, as long as you've got a relatively well-trained pair of legs on you, you should be fine. But we'll see. I'll confirm that once I've made my way back up to the top again afterwards. So we're heading down towards the water. You can see it opening up, and apparently it's teeming with leeches. So wild swimmers beware. Still go in, but make sure you give yourself a good check. I can hear some people swimming in there now. So I hope they're managing to stay leech free.
There is another belief that goes with Gormire. Some say that there is a sunken village at the bottom. Could this idea come about because of the real mystery that seems to surround the lake? Unusually, there's no inflow or outflow from Gormire, but it is believed to be fed by an underground spring. Or is it just that a memory of its prehistoric history and the settlements that used to reside on its banks are remembered through this story, told and retold throughout time until they become something different altogether?
Well, there is something about just allowing yourself to sit in nature and just enjoying it. I've been sitting down by the lake's shore here for about 5 minutes now, and just listening to the sounds, looking at the sights. I mean, this is a beautiful spot, Gormire Lake. and you start to notice little things, little insects crawling about. You start noticing the fungus that's growing on the trees, and the reason why my voice is so quiet now, in the tree just in front of me there is a little bird nesting. I didn't quite see what it was, I just saw it fly into the hole. I think it could have been a long-tailed tit, either a long-tailed tit or a coal tit, something quite small. And by being still in nature, you let it come to you a little bit more. And you know, I've learnt this with my wildlife photography. You can't be rushing about in nature and expect to see glorious things. You have to sit and be patient and become part of it, part of what is going on around you. Let things get used to you, and all of a sudden this whole world opens up, and it's a beautiful world. This legend of the lake being bottomless has thrown up some very odd stories. So there's the tale of the goose. Now there is apparently a goose came into this lake, disappeared under the water, and then appeared later on in a spring in Kirby Moorside, but it had been stripped completely of its feathers. Now that's weird, isn't it? Like, where does that come from, that sort of story? I mean, who was tracing the goose? How did it get recorded? Did someone just come up with it? And then if they did, why? Very odd. Very odd indeed. So interestingly, there is another tale about the White Stone Cliff, and that is also involving someone jumping off the cliff into the lake. And this is Abigail's leap. So Abigail apparently was a witch, and she could change form into a hare, or I can't remember what the other one was, maybe a horse, but and she jumped into the lake and disappeared, and used the gateway to hell. Now it's interesting that it's a very similar format to the other stories, but updated for the ideas of the time. And this was sort of put together with the other tale of the goose, and she then appeared in a spring in Kirby Moorside. So this definitely feels like an updating of the story to suit the times, really. Yeah, it just goes to show you that these big landmarks, you know, if you think about it, you've got the Vale out there, big dip in between here and the Yorkshire Dales, and there's not a lot else, and then you get to these two massive landmarks, and there's all these stories that surround them, and it's no wonder that people put such importance to them, because they'd have stood out so much in their environment and been so important as markers or meeting places. So yeah, it's no wonder they got sort of drenched in these stories and tales. And now pick up this nice trail that just takes you right round the circumference of the lake. It's not very big, Gormire Lake, so it's quite easy to just get your way around, but well worth doing. There's lots of swans nesting on here at the minute. Well, not lots, but two sets of swans nesting, but countless birds nesting in the woods around it. So yeah, we're going to head round the lake and then pick up the path back up to the top. My headline for this walk would be woodland euphoria with occasional views, I think, because you don't get to see views a lot of the time. You are in the woodlands, but when you do see them, they're glorious. They just pop out, and they're often quite grand and quite sweeping and quite far-reaching. So there's a lot of payoff, really. Yeah, and it is beautiful. I think in the winter it would have a very different tone to it, because you'd obviously be able to see a lot more a lot of the time, because there'd be less leaves on the trees. But yeah, it's very nice. Obviously got a well-used deer path here. They're very good at hiding during the day. That goes off into the woods, so I bet they're all hunkered down in there now. And then as the evening comes on and the people disappear back to their homes, they'll come out. And this walk has been really reaffirming for the mixed woodland environment for me. Like, there's just so much life. You've got everything from, you know, the insects right the way through to the birds, to the deer. Seen loads of sign of badgers, so it just shows you how healthy this mixed woodland environment is, and why we should probably be creating more of them. I can't help but think that this area would be so much grander if this woodland just spilled over even further and just encompassed more of the land, but you can always dream, I suppose. Well, this is Sun Bridleway, incredibly steep, as you probably can't see it on here, but it is steep. Let's see if we can get any more perspective that way. But it reminds me of a holloway, properly sunk down into the like ditch here. You walk up the middle, but like there've been horses up here, which I don't think I'd fancy very much. But right, it's going to be the last leg punisher for the walk. My big question: could this have been left by the mare of the crag, the white mare of Whitestone Cliff? A ghost poo? I'm not going to stand in it to find out, but it's always a possibility. I said I'd tell you if it was a big pull up, and as you can probably tell by the sweat and the puff in my voice, it's quite a slog up the hill, but still very beautiful. Oh dear, I think I'm nearly at the top now, and from there we pick up the cliff top path again and back round, across the road, over to the airfield and back to my car. Hallelujah. Oh, I don't know if I'm really unfit or whether it's really hot, but that was quite the push up there. I think the heat doesn't help. I'm not the best in the warm weather, but you got to enjoy it. There's a nice breeze out on the top here as well. Once again, got these beautiful views right over Yorkshire. Excellent stuff. Now I'm an interloper into Yorkshire. I'm an Essex boy, but I truly love it up here. I've been up here for like 20 odd years up north, lived in the lakes for 5, and then over here for the rest. And actually, as grand as the lakes is, I love the lakes, but I find a richness here that the lakes doesn't have, and I think a lot of that is to do with stories. And I know the lakes has its own stories, but it's just so rich here, and I think that stems from, like, you know, York obviously being Vikings and before, and just generally the whole area was populated for a long time in history. And I think you can really sense that. We're just going to have to do a 360 again, because look. So all I'd say, I think, is thank you, Yorkshire, for being my home. You lovers, this final bit of the walk, let's do this side so you can actually see. The final bit of the walk is all where the payoff is. So first, you know, half to 3/4 of the walk really, glimpses of views, beautiful woodland, and then this stroll back along the top is just, everything opens up. It's very hazy today, but it's still beautiful. You can still just see the Yorkshire Dales over in the distance there, which is always nice. And man, this time of year, it's got to be one of the best, isn't it, really? This and autumn are perfect. Now, the final little full stop on the folklore journey here is the Fairies Parlour, which is a cave that's actually in the Whitestone Cliff. Now, I'm only going to mention it today because I hope I'm going to go there at some point, but it's going to be a dedicated trip there because it's quite tricky. You have to find the path down this steep drop and then locate it in the cliff face. So I don't know how I'll get on with that, but I'll try it, I'll film it and see how it goes. I'm just trying to keep my eye out for the path now. Now, coming out on these walks. I love being outside. Like I always have, ever since I was young. I used to take myself out on big walks and go and explore. But the more you do it, like here today, to be honest, I've kind of not written it off, but you get familiar with places, and you, especially living here for a while. And Gormire, we visited here loads with the kids and all the rest of it. Actually coming and spending time here again, you learn to appreciate everything again, and it's given me so many ideas for future like photographs that I want to come and take, for future adventures. And that is the joy of coming outdoors and coming to these places, is that they are inspirational. And when you tie that on to the stories that go with them as well, it's just like an ever-ending, never-ending source of inspiration. So, you know, if you're like me and you get a bit bored of the world that humans have created, just get out there and explore, and, you know, delve into these folklore tales and let yourself believe in them for a little while. Let yourself be a part of them and enjoy what your local area's got to offer. Obviously, as ever, I've really enjoyed this walk. I hope you have too, and I would really appreciate it if you find any sort of value in these videos, just to give us a like and a subscribe. Oh god, we're on the top of the cliff there. Yeah, give us a like and subscribe, and just you know, help me make content and continue to make it, because it can be quite difficult. But yeah, thank you for watching, appreciate it. If you can give us a like and a subscribe, I'd appreciate that even more. And until next time, keep it weird.